Average doesn't come knocking. It slips in silently, uninvited, disguised as normal, disguised as reasonable. It creeps into your habits, your goals, your thoughts until it owns your mornings, your effort, your identity. And by the time you realize what happened, it's already set up shop in your soul. Because average is not a moment. It's not a single decision. It's a pattern. And that pattern is a disease, a slow erosion of the fire that once lit your chest, a daily decay of the clarity that once moved your feet. It tells you, that's good enough. It tells you, take it easy. It tells you, why try so hard? And if you listen long enough, you begin to believe it. You begin to settle. You begin to rot while standing still. Because make no mistake, average is not neutral. It is not the middle ground. It is not okay. Average is regression, dressed in comfort. Average is decay disguised as balance. Average is potential betrayed by permission. And if you let it live inside you long enough, it kills your hunger, your mission, your becoming. But here's the truth. They don't teach in school. Average is a disease you can cure. It does not own you. You are not genetically average. You are not sentenced to mediocrity because of where you came from. It's not written in your blood. It's written in your choices. And choices can change. So if you're tired of waking up uninspired, if you're sick of living between goals you don't chase and dreams you don't claim, if you've had enough of doing just enough to not feel guilt but never enough to feel glory, then it's time to rise. Not slowly, not casually, not eventually. Now, because average has stolen enough from you. It's robbed you of mornings you didn't own. It's robbed you of conversations where you bit your tongue. It's robbed you of decisions you delayed, truths you avoided, work you knew was yours to do. But no more. Today you stop feeding the lie. Today, you cut the disease at its root. And that root is mindset. Because the mind is where average takes hold first. Not in your schedule, not in your bank account. In your belief, average begins when you start to think small feels safe. When you confuse peace with passivity. When you start to believe that just because everyone's doing it, it must be okay. But look around. Is it okay? Is drifting through life okay? Is quiet desperation okay? Is dying with your best still inside you okay? Not for you. Never for you. Because you weren't built for average. You were built for greatness. And that greatness begins the moment you take back control of your mind. Because when you fix the mind, the body follows. The habits follow. The world responds. And that mindset must be bold. It must be unreasonable. Because reasonable thinking is what got you here. Reasonable says, don't rock the boat. Reasonable says, be grateful for what you've got. Reasonable says, at least you're not failing. But greatness does not come from reason. It comes from conviction. Conviction that you were not born to blend in. Conviction that your life is a message, not a mistake. Conviction that no matter how deep the average has sunk into your bones, you can burn it out. And that fire begins with belief. You must believe that this life can be more, that you can be more, not when things are perfect, not when the stars align, but now, right here, right in the middle of the mess, right in the middle of the weakness and the doubt and the shame and the regret, because belief isn't built in the light. It's forged in the shadows. It's forged when you show up anyway. When you say, I don't care how long I've been average. I don't care what they said about me. I don't care what I failed at before. I'm not done. I'm not broken. I'm becoming. And once you believe, once you stop arguing for your limitations, clarity begins to rise. Clarity says, this is who I am. Clarity says, this is where I'm going. Clarity says, this is what I will no longer tolerate from myself or anyone else. And when clarity arrives, vision becomes visible. Vision that burns so bright it blinds your old excuses. Vision that makes average impossible to entertain. Vision that pulls you forward when your motivation falls apart. And with vision comes war. Because the minute you start living above average, average will fight back. It will call you arrogant. It will call you obsessed. It will beg you to slow down, to play nice, to blend in again. Don't, because you've seen too much. You've tasted what it's like to want more. You've felt what it's like to dream in color while others are living in gray. And now the only way out is through. Then brace yourself. Because from this point on, you no longer walk like the rest. You no longer crawl through the days hoping for less pain. You no longer beg for ease, you train for war. Because discipline is now your sword. And you don't swing it out of fear. You swing it with precision. You understand now, average was never beaten by ambition. It's beaten by execution. Discipline is the cold, steady hand that says, I do what I said I would do, even when I no longer feel like doing it. Discipline doesn't ask if you're inspired. It asks if you're committed. It doesn't wait for the mood. It becomes the mover. And every time you choose discipline over desire, every time you delay comfort to protect your calling, every time you silence the voice that says, skip it today, you put another nail in average's coffin. Because this is what average fears most: not talent, not intelligence, not charisma. Consistency. The boring, relentless, unseen days of showing up, of doing the reps, of keeping the vow you made to yourself when no one else was looking. That's what makes you dangerous. Because average relies on your weakness. It counts on your emotions to lead the way. But now, you've reversed it. You no longer feel your way into action, you act your way into identity. And that identity, it moves fast, with direction, with violence toward your old patterns. You stop starting and stopping. You stop overthinking. You stop waiting for certainty and start creating it. Because action is your new default. You're not here to discuss it. You're here to do it. You're not here to explain the plan. You're here to embody it. And the more you act, the more the ground shakes beneath you. The more resistance rises. Good. Because pressure is the signal that you're no longer average. Pressure is the gate to power. And now you meet it like a warrior, not with panic, but with presence. You breathe in chaos like oxygen. You bend with the wind, but never break. Because you've trained in the dark. You've bled in silence. You've sharpened your spirit until it slices through storms. You are now resilient. Not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. You've buried your excuses. You've buried your self-pity. You've buried the weak version of you that used to beg the world for permission. Now, you command it. You lead not because you have all the answers, but because you've earned the right to be followed. And still you remain a student, because you know mastery is never final. You learn from failure. You learn from discomfort. You learn from the hard lessons average avoids. You devour wisdom like oxygen because growth is your true wealth. Not titles, not likes, growth. That sacred inner evolution that says, I will be better tomorrow, not because I need to prove anything, but because I owe it to the future version of me that's waiting on the other side. So now, here you are, standing in the light. The disease has been exposed. You can see it, know in their eyes, in their talk, in their hesitation. Average is everywhere, but not in you, because you've made the decision. The final one, not to try, not to wish, but to cure it once and for all. Then take a breath, because this is it. The moment your story splits in two, the life you were living and the life you refuse to live anymore. This is the line. This is where you end the war with yourself, where you stop fighting for your limitations, where you stop justifying smallness, where you kill the version of you that kept shrinking to fit inside boxes you were born to break. This is where you bury average, and not with noise, with proof. With action so loud it silences every voice that ever said you couldn't. With effort so relentless it makes quitting irrelevant. With standards so high that mediocrity dies just trying to breathe next to you. Because now, you are a problem for average. You are the one who rises early, moves with force, speaks with clarity, and lives with fire. You are the one who no longer waits to feel ready. You are the one who shows up regardless. You are the one who builds brick by brick, breath by breath, with no audience and no applause, because alignment is louder than approval. You are the one who says, I may have come from average, but average will not come from me. And from this moment forward, you walk differently. Not because you're arrogant, because you are aligned. Not because you're better than anyone else, but because you're better than who you used to settle for. You know what's on the line now. Your future, your peace, your name, your example. Because someone's watching you, a younger version of you, a child in your home, a peer in your circle, a stranger praying to believe again. And your decision to rise, that ripple might be the reason they don't drown. This isn't just personal, it's legacy. And legacy doesn't come from average. It is born in the trenches. It is carved into time by people who refuse to let their potential rot in the soil of good enough. So rise. Not once. Not sometimes. Daily. Let your habits scream where your mouth used to talk. Let your work speak what your excuses used to whisper. Let your actions build the life that average told you you'd never deserve. Because now, you know the truth. Average is a disease, but it's one you can cure. And the cure isn't found in a book, a course, or a coach. It's found in the mirror. It's you. You are the antidote. You are the shift. You are the beginning of a new standard for yourself and for everyone who follows your flame. So light it and never let it go dark again. There's a weight most people never feel until it's too late. It creeps in slowly like dust on a dream. It builds silently and invisibly behind every excuse, every delay, every I'll start tomorrow. And then one day, it crashes. Not in volume, not in violence, but in truth. The truth that you had the time. The truth that you had the talent. The truth that you had the chance. And you didn't take it. That's the weight of regret. It is silent, but deafening. Invisible, but suffocating. And once it settles into your chest, it doesn't let go easily. Regret doesn't weigh pounds. It weighs tons. It will bury a man deeper than failure ever could. It will hollow out the soul of the woman who played it safe. It will haunt the mind that said, not now, one too many times. But there is a way to avoid it. There is a lighter weight. A weight that doesn't destroy, but builds. A weight that doesn't break you, but forges you. It's called discipline, and it weighs only ounces. It's the weight of getting up when you don't feel like it. It's the weight of saying no to comfort when no one would blame you for saying yes. It's the weight of showing up again and again, long after the motivation has died and only your standards remain. Discipline is the cost of greatness. It is not loud. It doesn't show off. It doesn't seek applause. It lives in silence. It thrives in repetition. It is the sacred grind that no one sees, but everyone feels once it pays off. And it always pays off. The world may not notice it at first. The results may not arrive immediately, but that small ounce you carry each day, the morning routine, the extra rep, the second wind at midnight, it is accumulating interest. It is compounding identity. Every act of discipline is a deposit into your future self. It says, I matter too much to let myself off the hook. It says, I refuse to live with the weight of what if. It says, this pain I feel now is lighter than the pain I'll feel if I give up. Because that's the secret most never learn. Discipline is temporary. Regret is permanent. The sting of saying no to temptation fades. The ache of waking up early passes. The sweat dries. The soreness fades. The sacrifice becomes strength. But regret lingers. It replays memories in the middle of the night. It whispers in your ear when you see someone else living the life you knew was possible. It sinks into your gut when you realize you trained everyone else to believe in you except yourself. So carry the ounce now. Do the work. Build the habit. Deny the easy path. Because what you avoid today becomes the anchor of tomorrow. And what you embrace today becomes your advantage. You see, people think discipline is about rules, restrictions, a prison, but they're wrong. Discipline is freedom. Freedom from chaos. Freedom from inconsistency. Freedom from the emotional roller coaster that runs most people's lives. Discipline is your shield in a world full of distractions. Your anchor in storms of doubt. Your compass when the path grows dark. And it doesn't ask for perfection. It asks for presence. It asks, will you do what you said you would do even when the feeling has faded? Because feelings are fragile. They're swayed by weather, by mood, by opinion. But standards stand. And that's what discipline creates, a life built on internal standards, not external circumstance. You stop reacting to life. You start creating it. You start owning your time, your energy, your output. You stop blaming the day and start dominating the day. Because now you're not just drifting, you're directed. That direction is your edge. And it starts with one decision: to choose the lighter weight today so you don't have to carry the crushing one tomorrow. Because once you carry the weight of discipline long enough, it begins to carry you. It builds something underneath the surface, quietly, powerfully, permanently. It builds belief. Not the kind of belief you borrow from a podcast or copy from a quote. The kind that's earned. The kind of belief that comes from doing hard things when no one is clapping. From choosing consistency over chaos. From becoming the kind of person who follows through. Belief is not found, it's forged. Every act of discipline is a vote. And with every vote, you are casting a ballot for a new identity. You're no longer trying to achieve something. You're becoming someone. Someone who doesn't talk about potential, someone who embodies it. Someone who doesn't ask for an easier path, someone who becomes stronger. Someone who doesn't wish for certainty. Someone who creates it from within. And that belief, it begins to bleed into everything. You speak differently. You move differently. You enter a room and people can feel something, an unspoken certainty that doesn't need to explain itself. Because now your clarity is blinding. No more wandering, no more second guessing, no more drowning in the opinions of people who've never built anything themselves. You have clarity now. You know exactly who you are, and more importantly, who you are not. You know what matters. You know what you're building. You've burned the distractions. You've silenced the noise. You've removed the unnecessary. You're no longer trying to do everything. You're doing the essential, the few moves that change everything. Because clarity is power. And with that clarity, your vision sharpens. And vision is not optional. It is oxygen. Without it, you suffocate on the small. You drown in urgency. You become a slave to the calendar, to the crisis, to the cravings of the moment. But with vision, you rise. You say no to what doesn't serve your future. You say yes to what scares you but stretches you. You start moving not just with momentum but with meaning. Vision makes the pain make sense. It gives the sacrifice significance. You don't just grind, you grow. You don't just work, you wake up. Because vision makes your daily discipline a sacred act of destiny. And that vision once seen cannot be unseen. It will chase you. It will haunt you. It will burn inside you every time you betray it for a cheap excuse. Because once you've glimpsed what you could be, the cost of staying the same becomes too high. And from that fire comes purpose. Purpose is not a slogan. It is not a mission statement. It is not something you discover on a retreat. Purpose is forged in the trenches. It is built through resistance, through honesty, through ownership. It is the deep knowing that your life is not a random collection of habits and obligations. It is a message, a movement. And you are the messenger, but only if you accept the weight, only if you choose the ounce, only if you're willing to carry discipline like a crown, not a chain, only if you wake up every day and say, not today, regret, not today, because today you train, you build, you honor the weight. You don't run from pressure, you become pressure. You don't beg for peace, you create it through power. You don't hope for transformation, you prove it through action. Every step, every rep, every early morning, every lonely night, it's not just what you're doing, it's who you're becoming. Then brace yourself, because this is where the fire turns into force. Action is not something you wait for. Action is not something you feel your way into. Action is not an option if greatness is your standard. Action is your identity. You don't act because it's easy. You don't act because the stars align. You don't act because someone gives you permission. You act because not acting is a betrayal of your future self. You act because you said you would. And in a world addicted to talking, thinking, planning, and waiting, you become dangerous the moment you decide to move. You don't need another webinar. You don't need another quote. You need to do, because clarity without action is useless. Belief without action is fantasy. Vision without action is delusion. Nothing lives until you breathe into it with behavior. That's why the greats aren't always the smartest. They're not always the most talented. They're the ones who showed up anyway. The ones who moved when it hurt. The ones who dared to look foolish. The ones who failed forward with fire in their eyes. Because they understood this law. Discipline in action becomes identity in motion. And once your identity is in motion, nothing can stop you. You stop waiting for energy, you create it. You stop waiting for time, you command it. You stop waiting for the world, you become the world's signal to rise. And the signal is clear. You don't need easier. You need execution. And when that execution becomes your rhythm, adversity becomes your training ground. Because now you've become resilient. Resilience is no longer something you admire in others, it's what you live. It's the muscle you've trained every time the alarm went off and your body said no. Every time you got knocked down and rose without complaint. Every time you lost and learned. Resilience is not endurance. It is evolution. It is pain transmuted into power. It is rejection turned into redirection. It is the moment you realize life was never trying to break you. It was trying to build you. So you stopped cursing the storms. You started becoming the storm. You stopped praying for escape and started preparing for war. Because you know now, adversity doesn't weaken you. Avoiding adversity does. And so you leaned in. You adapted. You stopped needing perfect conditions. You stopped needing smooth terrain. You stopped needing certainty. You became fluid. You became agile in chaos, calm in crisis, anchored in ambiguity. Because adaptability is the signature of leadership. It says, I will not be shaken. I will bend if I must, pivot when needed, but I will not break. Because the mission is too important. The purpose is too sacred. The time is too short. And the calling is too loud. So you keep moving. You keep building. You keep becoming. Not because it's easy, but because it's worth it. And at the end of it all, when the dust settles, when the results arrive, when the world finally sees what you always knew, you won't be surprised. You won't be shocked. You'll simply smile because you carried the weight they refused to pick up. You paid in discipline, so you never had to pay in regret. And that, right there, that is a life well lived. Then here it is, the closing of the gap. The moment the journey meets the mirror, the place where all your excuses are laid to rest and only one thing remains your decision. Because now you know. Now you've felt it. Now there are no more illusions. Discipline weighs ounces. Regret weighs tons. And the longer you delay that truth, the heavier it becomes. There are no shortcuts that will carry you where discipline won't. There are no hacks to outpace regret. The path is simple. Not easy, but simple. Do what you said you would do. Become who you said you would become. Show up for your destiny before it shows up for you. Because here's the truth most run from. The clock is not waiting. The world is not pausing. And the man or woman you could be is slipping away every time you let the ounce go untouched. Every time you hit snooze. Every time you choose distraction over development. Every time you lie to yourself that tomorrow you'll start. You are placing another brick on the wall called regret. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can tear that wall down. Now, with one act, one choice, one moment of uncompromised courage. Start. Move. Lift the ounce. Let your actions scream louder than your doubts. Let your habits defy your history. Let your consistency become your character. Because this isn't just about goals. It's not about six-packs or bank accounts or applause. It's about becoming someone your future self thanks you for. Someone your past self dreamed of becoming. Someone who looks in the mirror and says not with arrogance, but with deep, quiet pride, I did not settle. I did not surrender. I chose the ounce. I chose the discipline. I chose me. So rise. Rise not for attention. Rise not for validation. Rise for the vow you made to your soul when no one else believed. No more wishing for ease. No more excuses disguised as reasons. No more letting the weight of regret sink its claws into your chest. You are not a victim. You are a weapon. You are not fragile. You are forged. You are not here to tiptoe through life safely to death. You are here to leave fire in your footprints. And if that requires sacrifice, then sacrifice. If that requires sweat, then sweat. If that requires discipline, then carry it with honor. Because there is no heavier burden than wondering what you could have become if only you had tried. So let this be the day the weight of regret dies. And let something greater be born in its place. A life sculpted not by chance, but by choice. Ounce by ounce, day by day, act by relentless act. Because in the end, discipline weighs ounces. Regret weighs tons. And now you know which one to carry. You don't need more time. You don't need more books. You don't need more podcasts or more motivational clips or more journals full of ideas you never execute. What you need is to move. Because the world doesn't change for the person who learns the most. It changes for the one who acts on what they've learned. You've read the quotes. You've heard the speeches. You've written your goals. But until you act, you are only accumulating potential energy. And potential energy never built anything. It never changed the world. It never shifted your bank account, your body, your identity, or your legacy. Only kinetic energy does that. Only movement. So let this hit you like truth in a quiet room. Learning is not growth. Learning is the seed. Action is what makes it bloom. And most people, they've got libraries of wisdom with no fruit on their tree. Not because they're lazy, but because they confused consumption with transformation. They believed that understanding a concept meant they had mastered it. But you don't master what you've learned. You master what you practice. Reading about strength doesn't make you strong. Studying courage doesn't make you brave. Understanding business doesn't make you wealthy. Only doing the work does that. So, stop waiting to feel ready. Stop thinking that the next piece of information is what you're missing. It's not. What you're missing is movement. Because at some point, you have to ask yourself, Am I studying because I'm committed to mastery? Or am I studying because I'm scared to move? There's a fine line between preparation and procrastination. And most people hide behind learning because action demands exposure. It demands you risk being seen. It demands you risk being bad at something before you're great at it. It demands that you trade certainty for momentum. And yes, it's uncomfortable. But comfort is not where greatness lives. It's where potential goes to die. So no, you don't need to know more. You need to do more with what you know. You need to turn your morning routine into non-negotiables. You need to turn your vision board into a schedule. You need to turn your passion into a practice. Because information is only power when it leads to transformation. And transformation doesn't begin with what you learn. It begins with what you do next. And what you do next should come from a mindset that's been rebuilt. Because mindset isn't something you recite. It's something you live. It's the inner command center that turns belief into behavior. It's what allows you to get punched in the mouth by failure and still whisper, we're not done. And your mindset, it doesn't get stronger through lectures. It gets stronger through reps, through exposure, through choosing consistency over comfort. Because mindset without discipline is just hope in disguise. And hope is not a strategy. You need discipline. You need the spine to execute without applause. You need the will to take that book you highlighted and make it a part of your daily identity. Discipline isn't about doing what feels good. It's about doing what's aligned. And alignment, that only happens when your actions echo your values. Not when you say you want success, but when your schedule proves it. Not when you plan to write, to train, to build, but when you show up anyway. Tired, uncertain, uncomfortable. That's how habits are rewired. That's how lives are redesigned. That's how ideas become impact. So let this moment draw a line in the sand between who you were when you only consumed and who you are now that you produce. You are not a collector of concepts. You are a creator of momentum. Because belief without behavior is fiction, and vision without execution is just a hallucination. You say you believe in yourself, then prove it. Not to me, to you, with your calendar, with your habits, with your refusal to stay the same. Because belief is not a feeling. Belief is a decision to rise before you feel ready, to move before you feel perfect, to show up when everything in your body says stay the same. Belief is the fire beneath your excuses. It's the voice that interrupts your comfort with clarity. It's the moment you stop waiting for momentum and start creating it. And when belief takes root, vision comes alive. You stop dreaming in generalities and start building in specifics. You start seeing your future, not as a wish, but as a result, you are creating. You walk into every room already having seen the outcome, not because it's guaranteed, but because it's been decided. And when vision is married to belief, purpose is born. Purpose isn't about finding yourself. It's about remembering yourself. It's not a job title. It's not your passion. It's not some cute sentence you post on social media. Purpose is that invisible contract between your soul and your assignment. It's why you wake up different. It's why you endure more. It's why you refuse to quit, even when no one's watching. Because when you know your purpose, you stop needing permission. You stop needing applause. You stop chasing likes and start chasing legacy. And you don't run from repetition, and you respect it. You respect the mundane. You honor the boring. You fall in love with the grind that no one claps for, because you finally understand repetition is revelation. The world thinks success is found in some big, sexy moment. But you know the truth. Success is found in the discipline to do what you said you would. long after the emotion you set it in has faded. And when that level of discipline becomes your identity, gratitude becomes your power. Not the shallow kind, not write 3 things and move on kind. I mean, real gratitude. Gratitude that grounds you. Gratitude that sharpens you. Gratitude that makes you unstoppable. Because now you're not building from lack. You're building from alignment. You're not fighting for self-worth. You're expressing it. You don't need external validation anymore. Because every morning you wake up breathing, you're already winning. And the more grateful you are, the less excuses you tolerate, the less fear you entertain, the less average you accept in your orbit. Because when your spirit is full, you refuse to play small. Because when you stop playing small, the world doesn't just notice, it adjusts. You stop adapting to your environment, and your environment begins adapting to you. That's the power of adaptability. Not as a survival mechanism, but as a strategy of the elite. Because the future doesn't belong to the strongest. It belongs to the most flexible, the ones who don't break when the plan breaks, the ones who know how to pivot with poise, the ones who've trained their mind to ask, what's the opportunity inside this chaos? And there's always opportunity, always a lesson hiding inside disruption, always a new version of you waiting behind discomfort. But most people never meet that version because they run from the unfamiliar. They flinch at change. They forget you were built to evolve. Adaptability isn't weakness. It's warrior wisdom. It says, I am not attached to method-only mission. It says, I will do whatever it takes to stay in alignment with the life I said I would live. That's when resilience takes root. Not the fake kind that pretends everything is fine. Not the smile through pain, act like your tough version. Real resilience. The kind that looks failure in the face and says, you don't scare me anymore. The kind that sees rejection as redirection. The kind that doesn't need to be loud because it's grounded. Resilience isn't just the ability to bounce back. It's the power to bounce forward, to come out of pain more precise, to come out of storms more skilled, to come out of failure more focused. Because now you don't just survive life. You study it. You become a lifelong learner. Not because you need more certificates, but because you understand, the more I learn, the less I settle. The more I study my patterns, my pain, my path, the more dangerous I become to average. You read because you're building tools. You invest in mentors because you're collapsing time. You reflect because you're sharpening awareness. And awareness is the beginning of every breakthrough. Because you cannot transform what you are unwilling to observe. And you cannot master what you are afraid to measure. But now you've stopped hiding. Now you look yourself in the mirror eyes, wide open, and say, I am the architect now. No more potential without results. No more knowledge without action. No more living as a student of concepts instead of a practitioner of greatness. You've crossed the threshold. You've exited the cycle. You've stepped into the identity that doesn't need to be reminded anymore. Because the most powerful person in the room is not the one with the most ideas. It's the one with the most execution. And now, that's you. You don't just study wisdom. You embody it. You don't just highlight truth. You become it. You don't just learn anymore. You act, and every action whispers into the future. I will not be the one who almost did. I will not be the one who only knew. I will be the one who built, because I turned my learning into legacy. You are not just informed. You are on fire. You are not just aware. You are awake. You are not just a thinker anymore. You are a mover, a maker, a multiplier of momentum. And the world is now forced to reckon with a person who no longer just knows better, You are the one who does better because you didn't let your learning lead to knowledge. You let it lead to action, and that changes everything. Your time is not infinite. Your energy is not renewable. Your life is not a dress rehearsal. So why do so many spend their one and only chance at this world majoring in minor things? They perfect the unimportant. They obsess over the trivial. They win arguments that don't matter, post content that doesn't count, pursue goals that won't fulfill them and call it a life. But what they've built is a well-decorated distraction. Because when your priorities are out of order, even your best efforts become empty. When your ladder is leaned against the wrong wall, every step up is just another step away from your purpose. And when you spend your life majoring in minor things, you wake up one day surrounded by results that don't resemble who you were born to be. It's a slow death, one excuse at a time, one click at a time, one meaningless task completed with pride while your calling starves in silence. But it doesn't have to be that way, because clarity can cut through the fog like a sword. And one decision can bring it all back into alignment. That decision? To major in what matters. To stop being busy and start being brutal about what actually belongs in your life. To stop counting tasks and start measuring impact. Because the truth is this: your life becomes the sum total of what you give your focus to. Your results don't lie. They reveal your priorities, your bank account, your body, your calendar, your relationships. All of them are mirrors not of your desire, but of your discipline. And discipline means choosing what matters most when everything else is screaming for attention. It means deciding that just because something is urgent doesn't mean it's important. That just because it's trending doesn't mean it's truth. It means cutting ruthlessly, not with guilt, but with honor. Because you don't have time to carry what doesn't move your mission forward. You were not put on this earth to be efficient at the irrelevant. You were not born to master the meaningless. You were born to build something eternal. And that building begins in the mind. Because if you don't master your mindset, you'll major in noise. You'll wake up every day pulled by emotion, seduced by comparison, addicted to distraction, and never even notice that your power was leaking. Mindset isn't about motivation. It's about management. Managing what thoughts stay and which ones go. Managing your attention like it's gold, because it is. Managing your reaction so that your energy is used to build, not to battle imaginary threats. Because your mind is a kingdom. And if you let every thought run free, you invite chaos to rule it. But when you take control, true control, you begin to elevate. You stop wasting time trying to change what you can't control and start transforming what you can to yourself. And from that transformation rises belief. Not borrowed belief, not hype, not feel-good affirmation. Earned belief. The kind that comes from keeping promises to yourself. From doing the work when nobody's watching. From showing up again and again, not for praise, but for purpose. Because belief is the gateway to focus. And once you believe that your life matters, your time becomes sacred. You stop trading hours for validation. You stop saying yes to things that dilute your destiny. You stop apologizing for protecting your energy because you know if it costs your peace, it's too expensive. And with that belief comes clarity. Clarity that pierces through the chaos of modern life and says, this is who I am. This is what I'm building. And I refuse to let the minor things run the major show. Clarity brings order. It's the compass in the storm. The still voice that says, not that this, not them this path, not someday now. And when clarity burns hot enough, vision takes hold. Vision that doesn't care about popularity. Vision that doesn't bow to public opinion. Vision that is so clear it makes average feel like a threat. Because vision isn't something you find. It's something you fight for. And once you have it, it makes saying no not only easier, it makes it essential. Because now you know every yes to a distraction is a no to your destiny. And you don't have time to waste on what won't outlive you. Because once vision locks in, your life is no longer random. It becomes ritual. You don't drift. You design. You don't dabble. You decide. You don't ask, what do I feel like doing today? You declare, this is who I am and this is what I do, regardless of how I feel. That's the power of purpose. It eliminates confusion. It wipes out distraction. It gives every minute meaning, even the painful ones. Because purpose doesn't just fuel you when things are working. It anchors you when everything's falling apart. It gives weight to your discipline. And discipline is the great separator. Discipline is the immune system against the infection of mediocrity. It is the daily vow that says, I choose what matters most over what feels best. I choose consistency, not convenience. I choose direction, not dopamine. You cannot major in what matters and be a slave to comfort. You cannot build anything eternal by doing what's easy. Discipline isn't sexy. It's not flashy. It's not meant to be posted. It's meant to be lived. It's quiet. It's boring. It's repetitive. And that's why it works. Because while others chase noise, you choose ritual. While they major in minor things, you master what matters. And when discipline becomes non-negotiable, action becomes automatic. Not emotional, not dramatic, automatic. You act because you've already decided. You move because your movement isn't tied to motivation, it's tied to mission. You stop overthinking. You stop second guessing. You stop waiting for a sign because you are the sign. And that movement compounds. Those small actions, they become identity. They become your signature. They become the proof that you are not like the rest because you've chosen a different path. And on that path, every action becomes a statement, not to otherstow yourself. I will not waste my life on the meaningless. I will not give my attention to what doesn't build me. I will not lose years to busyness while my legacy starves. Because now you live in gratitude. Gratitude for the hard path. Gratitude for the narrow road. Gratitude for the ability to choose again, to wake up, to realign, to return to what matters. Gratitude isn't about being soft, it's about being aware. It's seeing the value in the challenge. It's recognizing that even struggle serves your spirit. Because now you don't resist the pain. You redeem it. You use it. You wield it. You wear it as armor. And when pain comes knocking again, and it will, you meet it with resilience. Not because you're fearless, because you've trained, because you've built a life so aligned, so intentional, so mission-driven that nothing minor can break you. Not opinions, not delays, not even failure. You don't break. You bend forward. You don't shatter. You sharpen. You don't retreat. You recalibrate. Because every time you rise again, you rise richer. Richer in wisdom. Richer in awareness. Richer in character. And all of that wisdom becomes fuel for your learning. Because you're not here to pretend you know everything. You're here to grow through everything. You listen. You adapt. You adjust with humility and move with conviction. Because learners never lose. They evolve. And evolution is the enemy of average. It is the death of distraction. It is the cure to the disease of majoring in the meaningless. And now you know. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being precise. This isn't about doing more. It's about doing what matters. Then let's finish this with fire in your bones and clarity in your soul. Because this is not just another reminder. This is a reckoning, a sacred confrontation between the life you've been living and the life you were born to lead. No more pretending you don't know the difference. No more playing dumb while your calling starves. No more calling burnout grind and mediocrity balance. You know the truth now. You can feel it every time you waste your hours on things that don't matter. Every time you chase the applause instead of the alignment. Every time you settle for being impressive instead of being impactful. You feel that whisper inside, you go quiet. And now you're done with that. You're done majoring in minor things. You are done being busy instead of being effective. You are done saying yes to everyone while saying no to your own becoming. This is the moment you cut the cord. This is the moment you raise your standard from productive to powerful. Because now, the only things that get your time are the things that shape your legacy. The only things that get your energy are the things that grow your character. The only things that get your heart are the things that carry your purpose. Everything else, gone. You're not ruthless because you're heartless. You're ruthless because you're awake. You've realized that you only get one shot at this, and you are no longer available for anything less than truth. So you draw the line. You declare with your actions, I will not waste my time decorating distraction. I will not live like my days are unlimited. I will not be remembered as someone who almost became something. From this moment forward, you major in what matters. You move with clarity. You speak with authority. You act with urgency. You're not waiting for alignment. You're choosing it. You're not reacting to life. You're orchestrating it, because the man or woman who majors in the essential, who masters the meaningful, who lives every day in devotion to what is eternal, that person changes the world. So let the world chase noise. Let them obsess over vanity. Let them drown in distraction. You walk the narrow road. You speak the deeper truth. You live the kind of life that cannot be ignored, because your focus became your freedom, and your freedom became your flame. Don't major in minor things. Not now, not ever again, because the clock is ticking and the world is watching, and you have work to do.